there's a lot of members of my family here, and just to build on what Jill said, my sister Barb first introduced me to the term pack rat. So, I like things, I like collecting things. Thank you, Jill, and thank all of you. Welcome for being here. In addition to all the wonderful things that Jill said, I'm also a father of 2 lovely daughters and grandfather of 4. Mallory, my oldest, has 3 lovely stepdaughters, and Miranda, my youngest, about 2 weeks ago, produced a baby grandson, so apple of my eye. Okay, well, the Pawlak family has been involved in Portsmouth Township history, Portsmouth Township since about 1953, plus or minus, so about 70 years. Starting off with my dad, who was involved in the Merit School Board. He was the township treasurer. He was a county commissioner. Then he came back on the township board as a trustee. My own sister is the township clerk. She's been doing that since, oh my God, many, many years. She's sitting up here. So it's that from my dad, that idea of township government and being involved that makes me love the township, makes me love history, makes me love being involved, and I'll be forever thankful for that. I did do a township history presentation. I thought it was just a few years back, but it was actually like 10 years ago. And I remember Mike Weiler, our board member who was sitting in the back, said, you should do this. And I said, Mike, I don't think I can find enough stuff. And then by the time I was done, I said, Mike, well, I think we were here like an hour and a half. I promise I won't do that. I'll get you out before the snow flies. But as I was telling him earlier, after I collected information for this, I thought, my gosh, I've got enough information or leads on information for a couple more presentations relating to township history. So, to be continued. So, murder, mayhem, and mischief. I'll explain where I came from that title, but that was one thing that inspired me. I have to keep looking down, because if I don't follow the script, we will be here till like 5 o'clock. So I don't want that. But that is one thing that inspired me. Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story inspired me. Just the idea that there's always a backstory behind the story. So you'll hear me maybe refer to that throughout. There was a columnist named Sidney Harris that I used to read in the Detroit Free Press years ago. And of all the things, he was a nationwide columnist, but one of his favorite columns was something called Things I Found en route to looking up other things. So that was back pre-internet when he was doing book research, and as he's looking for what he's looking for, oh, that's a cool thing, that's a cool thing. And that's kind of what we're going to do today. So what I would like to do is we'll start with a brief background of history of the township, for those of you that weren't here 10 years ago, but it will be brief. That was when I focused more on dates and facts and figures. I want to focus on things that have kind of fascinated me over the years, things that have occurred in the township. And I say fascinated, interested, distressed, frustrated maybe. So, well, it's not about me, it's coming from me. So if what I think is cool enough to be out there, you might think, well, what the heck's that all about? And that's okay, that's okay. I am going to talk about some murders that happened in the township. I don't want to be graphic, and I don't, if you find that you're related to somebody I'm talking about, I will try and be sensitive. Most of what I've found in this last round of information gathering came from the Bay City Times and the archives. And when I discovered that, it was a whole new world. It was like I don't know if they call it a rabbit hole or a wormhole, but I could read every single paper since 1890 and just be fascinated by it. Not only the articles, but the advertisements and so on. It's just, that's how geeky I am about history. 99% of what I'm going to tell you is factual. The other 1% it will be embellishment or pieces of the puzzle that I may have inserted, but I'll let you know that. So if it's speculation or something that I'm not 100% sure of, then I'll let you know that too. So, here goes. History of Portsmouth Township. So I just, for clarification, there was a village of Portsmouth Township before there was a township of Portsmouth Township. And without getting into too much detail here, it was adjoining the river. I'm going to say like Lafayette-ish towards the north, McGraw Street to the south, and it was called Miller Street. But it was in that part of town. If you know Bay County history, or Bay City history, the city was the result of different small villages coming together to form the city that we know as Bay City. And the village of Portsmouth was one of those villages. So, not Portsmouth Township. We do share the name. Okay, just to give you a little idea of the timeline, 1836, the village of Portsmouth is platted. Well, even before Michigan became a state. 1857, in February, the name Bay City is adopted. In April of that year, Bay County is organized, and there were only two townships at that time, Williams Township and Hampton Township, and I'll show you on the next slide what that looked like. By 1859, Bangor, Portsmouth, and Aranac were organized. 1873, the village of Portsmouth, which I just showed you on the previous slide, was merged with the city of Bay City, actually merged, I believe, with the city of West Bay City. 1873, April 1st, Portsmouth Township is founded, created. 1877 is when the village of Banks, Salzburg, and Winona merged to form West Bay City. And then 1905 was when West Bay City merged with Bay City. So Bay City and Portsmouth. I always remember the five of Banks, Salzburg, Winona, Portsmouth, Portsmouth and Bay City to Bay City. I will ask this too, if you find a fact that I'm telling you that's troubling to you, and you think, you got that way wrong, please tell me after. So, because if you tell me in the middle, it's going to throw me, and I'll go, sorry. Okay, so this is a current map of Bay County. How many townships are in Bay County? Who wants to take a risk? Raise your hand if you think you know how many townships. Besides you. That young man in the back there, Leo. No, how many though? How many townships in Bay County?
Oh, 12?
Very close. It's actually 14. We started off as 2, and this is what Bay County looked like in 1857. Williams Township and Hampton Township. This line that runs up and down vertically, you can see it is still there, and that became Williams, Beaver, Garfield, and so on. This is 1885 map of Bay County. The thing you should notice here is that early Bay County included Aranac County. Aranac County was a branch off of Bay County. You can still see kind of the line where it came down around to become what we know as Bay County today. So I have friends from Merritt Township in the back there. Initially, Merritt Township was part of Portsmouth Township, and it wasn't until 1871 when they did some reorganizing and it became its own township. So this is, I know you can't see from the back, so bear with me. But this is what Portsmouth Township looked like in 1896. It's the current boundaries, and I don't know if you can see, and if it's circling the wrong area. The Township Hall, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, is located on Cass and M15. And what this map shows, it does show the Township Hall, which was our prior Township Hall, went that far back. But it also has some dots designated other buildings that were on the corner. We know there was a hotel on the corner. We know that there was a toll booth on the corner. I have pictures of an old house that stood on the, well, I'm trying to get my directions, the northwest corner. But there was also talk of another structure that was there. But the cool thing is they're pointed out on this map here. There was looking in the history of Bay County, 1886, just to quote, some of the finest farms in the county are in Portsmouth. Among the leading farmers are General B.F. Partridge, Nelson Merritt, Job Trombley, Samuel Henry, S.S. Fitzhugh, Henry Brandt, C.L. Mix, Frederick Meyer, Potter, Hayward. These are all names that there are still many of those names in the township. So where they were, their land and so on had been passed on from generation to generation. And I think that's cool. Okay, General Benjamin Partridge. That's this guy right here. He was the first supervisor of Portsmouth Township. I think that's pretty cool. He was an entrepreneur. He was involved in land ownership and businesses. He served as the Bay County Sheriff before enlisting as a member of the 16th Michigan Infantry. He had amassed a small fortune before losing it in the economic panic of 1857. When the shots were fired at Fort Sumter, and it was evident that we were going to war, he enlisted. So he was kind of involved in the Civil War from the beginning. So it does say general. He used the title of general, or at least didn't discourage people from calling him general, but he actually never held that rank during the fighting. As an officer, he earned the nickname of Old Pheasant, and this was not a complimentary title. And it kind of arose from the fact that he was in a leadership position. He's this guy from Bay City, but he is ordering around the group that he was with were mostly from Flint, so they kind of that ruffled their feathers a little bit. Got an old pheasant, ruffled feathers. They don't get any better, sorry. So, regardless of their feelings, the men of the 16th fought in every major battle, including Gettysburg. I don't recall which battle, but there was a point where he was shot in the neck. He was sent home to recuperate, then return. And when he came back, he was placed in charge of the entire 16th Michigan Regiment. He led his troops at the siege of Petersburg. He was present at General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse. So, cool dude for Portsmouth Township. When he came back home, I talked about the Old Pheasant and the kind of people not necessarily thinking he was all that. There was evidence that even though he was a war hero, he wasn't necessarily popular with everyone. He was part of the radical Republicans that were in office at that time, and different story for a different day. He did, however, help organize the first Bay County Fair. He was chairman of the County Board of Supervisors for a time, and was a commissioner of the State Land Office. I mentioned he had purchased land. He had purchased land in Portsmouth prior to the war, and obtained more after the war in what was now Portsmouth Township. He was elected first supervisor. His farm straddled the Tuscola Plank Road, which he helped construct. Now, the house is long gone, and why the heck does he have that shrubbery up here? This is on M15. Here's the location. That's where the house was. So that is on the Pett property. Paul Pett, some of you may know. Paul remembers as a youngster the house still being there and being this grand structure, but unfortunately that's all that exists of it. My goal is to someday get my friend who's what's called a privy digger, where he finds out where the outhouses of old houses were and digs down, because back in the day it was like a garbage dump. And surprisingly, you can find some really cool artifacts if you dig down where old privies were. So, whether it happens or not, I don't know. But if it does, I'll give a little speech about the whole process. Privy diggers. I never heard of it until I met Brian. His life came to a sad ending, though. He had a fire in his barn, and when he went to put it out, he became trapped in it and barely survived, suffering burns. It led to his ill health and eventually his death. He died on October 19, 1892, at the age of 70. He had one of the largest funeral processions in the county had seen, with a military burial in Elm Lawn Cemetery. So General Partridge, he's kind of one that I think if I do another presentation, it would be on him and his history and legacy and so on. Okay, this is a plank road, okay? This is I'm going to talk about the Tuscola Plank Road. This is where I say, and this is kind of embellishment because that's not the Tuscola Plank Road. That's a picture of a plank road. This one I think was in maybe the Grand Rapids area. Just like this picture, because the plank road, the Tuscola Road, which became M15, that was also a toll road, and there was a toll booth located on the corner of M15 and what we call M15 in Cass. But also, this is not a picture of that. This is just to give you an idea. So the Tuscola Plank Road was the first improved road in Bay County. It It was actually built 7 years before the first railroad reached Bay City. Our own General Partridge was involved. He did the surveying for the road. He helped raise $40,000 in the community to help to construct the road. It was completed in 1860 before the snow fell. So from surveying in 1859 to completion in 1860. And it opened up a rich tract of farmland in a practically untouched county area. Toll gate was established at the Cass intersection, and I'm just taking a slight detour. And I was told by someone that helped me with this, don't do that because you'll talk too long. But there was actually another plank road. There were like 4 or 5 in Bay County, but there was another one with the Portsmouth connection, and that was the Pawlak Road, which connected the city with the Tuscola Plank Road. Pawlak Road still exists, but this road I went, I believe, all the way into the village of Portsmouth in that area to make that connection. The roads never lasted long in Bay County. Freezing, spring rains, swamps, and soggy land worked and decayed the boards quickly. Many needed constant repair work. By the 1880s, the county began building stone and macadam roads, which is kind of a compressed stone. One thing that I found looking up is there were 3 stage lines that ran between Saginaw and Bay City, stagecoaches, and so they would have used the plank road on this side of town to get there. Once winter came around and the river froze, they would actually use the river for the stagecoaches, and they would, I think they charged like a dollar, or like 50 cents less to use the river. It's like $1.50 to use the toll road, and only $1, and those might not be exact. But that was a cool factoid. So M15, as we know it, that was completed on or about 1955. And again, I could give a history about the highways. And just as a kind of a straying here, we know that we have M15, Tuscola Road, that kind of divides the township in an east and west. But we also have another highway, Michigan Highway in Portsmouth, and that's M13 on the extreme west end. That was constructed around 1924. It was, one quote said, "It's the engineering miracle of all times. An 8-mile stretch from Bay City to Saginaw. The final swampland link was completed in 1930. Okay, built like a superhighway where people would try to see how fast they could go on it. And ironically, the first day it was opened, a man traveling down the road went off the road where the Sheboygan Creek is and was killed on the curve there instead of following. So, all right. Okay, I have a deep affection for the former Portsmouth Township Hall. It would, as we looked at the map before, it was designated there, so we know it was there at least 1886. To me, though, my holy grail or my white whale is to find real pictures of the Township Hall. So these are pictures from the Bay City Times, and they're grainy, and I apologize, but it is what it is. Just east of M15 on Cass, it's where we are today is just to the west of the where this hall was located. It took care of whatever the township's needs were. It was used for weddings and society meetings like the Grangers and the Gleaners and the Farm Bureau and women's societies held their tea parties there, graduations and so on. So on Saturdays it was used for tax collection. Before we got our new hall, my dad was a treasurer, I mentioned that, and basically operated out of our home. People would come to our home to pay taxes. But on Saturdays, he was at the Township Hall for people to go to the hall. On some Saturdays, I would go with him, and I got to be the guy that sold the people their dog licenses, which was a cool thing. I got to drink coffee. That was a cool thing. There was no running water in the hall. There was a wood stove. It was kind of an adventure in the winter when you lit up the stove. There was a furnace in there, but the stove was lit too. And all the flies would come to life and so on. So that was kind of cool. Right here, this headline here, a new image called Must for Portsmouth, and maybe you can see him. That was Paul Suak. He was a supervisor in 1970. I think this was from 1970. He called Portsmouth Township Bay County's poverty pocket because, goodness, we had this dumpy old Township Hall. Oh, we had outhouses there. There were window plumbing. I don't remember if it was his or hers. I do remember freezing my butt off in the winter but that was all part of the adventure. And this is a really grainy picture of what I looked in the inside. When you walked in, there would be chairs on either side, kind of a narrow building, and there was a counter on the back here where there'd be tables. So we kind of went in here, went around, and collected taxes, and that's where they had the township officers sat during their meetings. So yeah, it was bad. Did it need replacing? Yeah, it did. 87 years old at the time of this article. There was a fire that destroyed it in the mid-70s. I could not find and pin out that exact date. And led to the construction of the new hall. This was the preliminary plan, and pretty true to what it looked like in 1975, which means that it's 50 years old. 50 years old this year. So this is what the hall looks like today. This is what that picture showed, that original part. And as you can see, there have been additions, offices to the on this side, and the expanded fire department. I actually think we did more than one addition there, if my memory serves. Oh, Todd Shorty. Wonderful pictures. Todd's up in front here. He's one of our firefighters. He's citizen extraordinaire for the township. So some cool overhead pictures of the hall. This one was taken maybe dusk-like, but it does show the back end of the hall, which you can kind of see back here. We do have a playground and a pavilion. We have volleyball, basketball. We even still have horseshoe pits, which I think is another cool thing. Why don't people play horseshoes anymore? And we're hoping to maybe install a pickleball court this year. Oh, some fun facts. Okay. There are general law townships, there are charter townships. Portsmouth is a charter township. In Michigan, general law townships are governed by general laws, while charter townships are governed by charters adopted by a referendum. So why is it, what's the difference? The biggest difference for us is charter townships can levy up to 5 mills in property tax. General law can only levy 1 mill. They can ask for additional from the residents, but as a board, they can only levy. They have greater, this is the most important one, they have greater protection against annexation from contiguous cities or villages. And that's been a sore spot. It was a sore spot at one time where City of Bay City was annexing chunks of Portsmouth Township and adding them to the city. So at the time, it may have benefited the residents because you have access to sewer, you have access to water. Of course, you have the city police and fire department and so on. So my thing in my head, and I actually talked to the state yesterday, said, what if some of these people, since we now have all those things in Portsmouth, what if they wanted to go back to Portsmouth? What's is there a procedure for that? And he said, yeah, there is. It's only happened like once in the state, and he gave me the area that it happened. And the reason I say that is we have all those things now in Portsmouth Township. In fact, I would say that like when it comes to fire protection, we offer better fire protection than City of Bay City. And we'll talk about that later. But once you become a charter township, the city can't annex you anymore. And there are 5 charter townships in Bay County: us, Bangor, Hampton, Williams, and the other one, Williams. Monitor Township.
Well, we can tell us
Okay, Sheboygan Creek. Why is the Sheboygan Creek up there? I mentioned it in coming slides, and it was part of, for me, growing up in the township, in our neck of the woods. This was our swimming hole in the summer, and adventures and fishing. Me more for the swimming, and there were trails back there. It's essentially just a big drain. It's approximately 15 miles long, which means it runs through 3 different counties. It starts up in Tuscola County, and it dumps in Portsmouth Township. Comes all the way here, and it dumps into the river. This is another beautiful photo that Todd taken. So this is M13. This would be looking east, the creek, and then it goes way up to Tuscola. It's a designated county drain. So what's coming in here is agricultural runoff, 15 miles worth of agricultural runoff before it empties into the Saginaw River. But it still was a great place to swim on a hot summer day as a kid, and was a source of many adventures. I am going to talk in the like the murder mayhem part. I know of at least one body that was found there in the last probably 30 years. I'm sure there are more. I bet you there are more that haven't been found out there. I'll tell you about the ones I know of.
He's a comedian.
This is probably the pinnacle of Portsmouth Township, is our fire department. It's one of the best fire departments in the county, bar none. We are so proud of it. Well, this is where I'm getting in trouble. So, you can see Hampton Portsmouth Fire Department, and I'll kind of explain what that's all about. These are some of the originals, I think, Hampton Portsmouth. You can't see him too clearly. This guy here, named is Otto Reichel. He's considered to be like the father of the Portsmouth Township Fire Department, a dear man. And let's see, I think this might be the most recent. Todd, would you confirm that? This is the most recent picture of our department. We hover around 20 firefighters, so sometimes a little bit more, but we like to keep kind of that level of firefighters. So let me give you a brief history before I talk about the rest of these people here. Around 1940, the Bangor Portsmouth Fire Department, we were with Bangor. There was a truck station at the Glockstein Motor Sales on Tuscola. That building's still there. I don't know the name. I wanted to call it Gopher Turf and Till. Is that right? It is that building. So the building's still there. Fire calls were received by the Bay City Fire Department and relayed to Glockstein's garage. Volunteers were then notified by phone, and often the calls were never received because of the 8-party rural phone lines were busy. Interesting. So that's around 1940-ish. 1945, Hampton started their own department. 1947, Bangor started their own department. So then, around that time, Portsmouth contracted with Hampton. We had the Hampton Portsmouth, which is logical. We're much closer to Hampton than Bangor anyway. We have a dedicated crew. They have, I'll use the term, state-of-the-art equipment. It's just a source of pride for me as a supervisor and for your township residents to have our fire department. Pretty much a family affair. I mentioned Otto over here, Otto Reichel. Founding father, he was a farmer, he was a politician, he was a township treasurer for a while. He just was an all-around nice man. Otto was one that's soft-spoken and just one of the nicest guys you would ever want to meet. So, yeah, family affair. This is our current chief, Randy Stefaniak. His son is on the department. He's one of the officers now, isn't he? He's training officer. He's training officer. These are the Hurt brothers, Jerry and Gene. Gene's passed away with their sons. Former Chief Bob Doyen, his son Scott. Randy Luzak was a former officer, and Brad and Brian, his sons. Rich and Sherry Bird, what's their son's name? David. So there are three of them, husband, wife, and son on the department. I don't know why his picture's not on there. This is Gus Van Griesch, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his sons were on the fire department. I don't think exactly all at the same time, but probably the best represented family on the fire department, a dedicated group there. And just a note that this is also one. I was going to mention Otto too, because Otto's a son-in-law. Dick and his grandson are not firefighters, but they've been involved with the fire department. They help maintain the appearance of the trucks. They are kind of a member of the fire department, and they're certainly in the fire department family. But I think too, just the whole history of this department. I have Otto's notes from when it was created, a lot of handwritten notes, and just interesting to read. That could be a presentation on its own, I believe. So, fire department fun, ? Facts. So, my dad actually gave me a copy of this article. This was back in 1974. And it's a very disturbing situation where, Cass Avenue runs east and west, and Cass Avenue separates Portsmouth and Bay City. So this article it's about a specific event, but there were actually two within months, as I recall, where there was a fire on Cass. It would be just east of Lincoln Road, and Bay City firefighters responded to it, came up and saw that it wasn't in the city, so they literally turned around and went back. Twice that
Oh,
happened.
my goodness.
I know this one was severe damage. I don't know the extent of the other damage, but I guess the firefighters were doing what they were told to do, and they were worried about liability and so on and so forth. But definitely a not cool situation, and it definitely led to kind of some sour relations between Portsmouth and the city, at least in terms of the firefighters. So that would not happen today. Portsmouth and many townships have what's called a mutual aid agreement, where it's kind of like NATO. Like if something happens in your country, and we'll help you. And same with the firefighters. So we have an agreement with Bay City, Bloomfield Township, Essexville, Hampton Township, Fairgrove, Merritt, Bangor, Buena Vista, Kochville, Akron, and Zilwaukee, and I'm probably missing some. But pretty much everyone in the surrounding area, we have a mutual aid agreement. They can't respond, they need more help, we're there to help. And I would say that accounts for about 10% of all the firefighters' calls in a given year. In fact, I'm saying that with confidence because we do have a breakdown. So this is fairly recent here. And again, this would be something I could, not me, but like Randy or Todd could give a presentation on. But this of the exploits and severe fires and mishaps and fun things. That's why I put question mark. Is that fun? No. Is this fun? Well, I wouldn't have liked to have been these guys. I wouldn't consider that. Yeah, one of these guys is Todd. Todd's right here. Todd, okay. To best describe this happened on January 27th, 2024. 24. It's just like last year. Here's a chief's report. Station 18 was dispatched to Saginaw River off Veterans Memorial Park at the Bay Saginaw County line for the report of two cows who had fallen through the ice on the Saginaw River. Personnel arrived at the scene, finding one cow had already went under and was no longer visible. The second cow was about mid-river treading water. Todd Shorkey, John Stefaniak, and Cody Waterman donned ice rescue suits and equipment, going out and securing the cow with a line, and then with the help of bystanders on shore, pulling him out of the hole and across the ice to shore. The owners were at the scene and assumed care of the animal. Station 18 assisted with getting the animal into the owner's trailer using a mega mover. I don't know what that is. And the personnel cleared the scene after picking up equipment. So, honestly, Todd, you tell me if I'm wrong. Most of the calls our firefighters respond to are not fires, and hopefully you know that they're first responders. And I'll get the statistic if I ever do this again, but they even rescue cows. And that makes me happy because I like that.
They even rescue cows.
Okay, Murder, Mayhem, and Mischief. How I came up with this title, I give my daughter Miranda credit because she had a podcast that she was like, Dad, you really got to listen to this. It was a gal named Bailey Sarian, and she had this podcast where she would tell about murder mysteries. Only hers was called Murder Mystery Makeup because the whole time she was telling about these murders, she's literally making her face up. She's just talking and making. By the time the story's done, she's fully made up and looks like a beauty queen. But it's very interesting watch if you're going on a long drive and want to hear. A little salty language, just forewarning if you decide to go there. But I like the title, Murder. So murder, I just said Murder, Mayhem, and Mischief. So Paul Pett, who is the head of our planning commission, a local farmer, over the years told me about his great friend, his grandfather's brother that was murdered in Portsmouth Township in one of the roadhouses that we had. on or about the area of M15 and Cass. His great uncle's name was Fred Wispiner. So, Saturday, December 8th, 1906, Fred, his wife, and brother Paul went into town to take care of business. They left about 10 o'clock in the morning. The men had 2 or 3 drinks, or 4, in town before heading back to home. And as they were coming back, they were talking about the events of the day before, where there was a card game at the hotel that was on the corner. It was called the Mike Joy Hotel. And it was a roadhouse, so there was a bar there, and people lived there, and you could stay there. And I didn't realize that Mike Joy was actually the guy's name. His name was Mike Joy. I thought, well, Mike, and then it's a Joy Hotel, but it wasn't that at all. So they were playing cards, and Paul, Fred's brother, dropped a card on the ground, and the owner, his name was Chris Peterson, accused him of cheating. And he was like, no, he said, no, let's have a drink, let's forget the whole thing. And they did until Paul come back and charged him and started beating on him. Well, he got beat down, and they thought it was all settled. I mean, beat with fists and beat with a stick or a billy club or a wagon wheel spoke, whatever they had. And so he went at him again, and ended up with a black and eyes. I don't remember if he had the black and eyes or Chris. It doesn't matter. So they're coming back and talking about the story, and the wife just wants to go home. This article here took up almost all of the front page of that paper, and it reads like a book. It's very cool to read. Not only does it to give the facts at the incident, but it has views of Paul's story and Chris's story and Joe King, the butcher from Watersville's story, who happened to be in there. And each one of them kind of matched each other, except Paul, the brother, had a little bit of story. So, and it was the wife's story that turned out convincing authorities that, okay, we're going to believe you and not so much the brother. So, and even the dead man, this is the dead man, who was Fred, it said, he would have been 34 years old next February. He was a powerful man, probably 6 foot tall, weighed 230 pounds. Few of the younger generation of Portsmouth farmers were better known than he. He was the treasurer of the township, director of school district number 2, secretary and treasurer of the Lodge of Gleaners. He owned one of the finest farms in the township, consisting of 180 acres, and was believed to be worth 25 to 30,000. Which, when you do the checking, that's close to $1 million in today's time. So he did well. So the wife drops him off. She doesn't want these guys to go into the bar, and he's going to seek justice for his brother. So he gets in the bar and throws his coat down and says, "Show me some of these damn billy fighters around here." Billy, like billy club that they used. And Chris, the owner, says, "Well, what's the matter?" He says, "Nothing, but there's going to be a GD fight here tonight." So he rushes toward him, and there's a long bar there, 18-foot long bar. He's going after Chris, the bartender, at this end of the bar, and he knocked him down. He smacked him in the face, knocked him down, and he got up and moved away. So Chris, the owner, then he wants to get away, so he's kind of edging away from him, going towards the other end of the bar, where around the corner of the bar there's a box with a gun in it, a pistol. And so he gets the pistol out, so he's down here, and Fred's down there, and Fred's inching towards him, and he pulls out the gun, and he warned him, "Hey, no, I've got this gun, I'm going to shoot you." These are my words, not his. And he stepped closer. He grabbed one of the other patrons, Valance was his name, was using him as a shield. And I don't think he was the owner's, Chris's brother-in-law. So he's still coming at him with the guy in front of him, and he fires a couple warning shots over his head. I don't know at what point the shield man fell out, but as he lunged for him, he was kind of in a crouched position, and he shot him right through the heart. He was dead instantly, only they didn't know that. So while he was down, they proceeded to beat on him with sticks and whatever, which the coroner and everyone found out after his face was all bloodied up or bruised up, but it was the gunshot to the heart that killed him. So Chris Peterson, the owner, he was charged a week later with manslaughter. He didn't go to trial. He was eventually found innocent, self-defense. So, and this is where Paul was telling me he thought the bar, people didn't really go there that much anymore, and he thought it closed right away, but we found out that it remained open at least for a couple more years. So that's this is 1906. Big news in Portsmouth Township. So this, I don't know if this falls under mayhem or mischief. Cousin Jean was telling me about more than once when we were having a soda pop, about this school bus accident when he was a kid. So Monday, March 6, 1961, around 7:45 in the morning, there was a new bus driver. He was a released bus driver. He just turned 37. The paper said, well, he just had a birthday yesterday. And that's another kind of thing. The paper kind of gave you too much information. And we'll see another example of that. Anyways, he's coming north on Trumbull. He goes to turn onto Pawlak. The wheels are on the shoulder. The bus flipped on its side in a 12-foot ditch. I challenge that. It's a deep ditch. It's a county drain. It's a deep ditch. He wasn't driving very fast, about 15 miles an hour. So if you do the math here, it says 21 hurt and 38 injured. That comes up to 59 kids that were crammed into that school bus. I actually found out, like the article on the next day, was really only 49, but even so. So, and it noted according to Marty Leggetts, who was the prosecutor, capacity of a school bus is reckoned by allowing 13 inches of seat space for each passenger, plus 10% of the total seating for standees. These buses had the standing things like you would see on a bus. It wasn't basically public school buses. They contracted with Dobson Motor Coach. But this thing was jam-packed. So goes in the ditch. Witnesses and passerbys helped the driver to escape through the windows on the bus. And then the driver, he wasn't injured, so he was helping the students out. And the kids on the bus, and I say kids, on this bus were kids from as young as 7 years old up to 17 years old. And they were taking kids to both St. James School and then basically public schools. And so there were a lot of bruises, minor injuries. 5 went to the hospital via ambulance and cars, things with abdominal pain, shock, spinal injuries. I'm going to tell the story because the 2 people I talked to said they were helping, but there was one, I'll just say, young person that they were trying to get out, and they were a little wide at the bottom, and they had a hard time getting that person out. And they did, and without any injuries, but to them that was one of the memories that stuck in their mind. So none of the injured were in critical condition according to the article. However, 3 lawsuits seeking $130,000 in total damages were filed. One person said they had alleged they had permanent neck injuries, and the other ones were minor in nature. Named in the lawsuit are the driver and the Dobson Motor Coach, which operate the school buses by contract. So, yeah. All right, this one's hard for me to tell. Oops. Because this incident happened around the corner from where I grew up, and I'm young, like 10 or 11 years old. It was actually a double murder-suicide. So I grew up on Lincoln. This was around the corner, Pawlak Road. It was a grandmother and 2 grandchildren. She was in the house with, and this I have to check. I don't remember if it was her daughter or her daughter-in-law, but neighbors said the grandmother was depressed. The neighbors said those grandkids were her whole life. She loved them and wouldn't have done anything to hurt them. And added that she had a breakdown a while back and thought some kind of gang was after her and the kids. She never would have done this if she didn't think the kids were in danger. But these were small children. They were 20 months old and 5 months old. And so, I mean, she shot them and then turned the pistol on herself. Her daughter's there. She runs out to the neighbors and got police to come. But again, it was hard to, I remember, because I collect things, so I remember as a kid clipping this article out, because I had a collection of articles, and it was just just a real hard thing to know that something like this could happen right around the corner where I live. It could rock my world. And even seeing that picture again of the funeral, I think that's St. Hyacinth's, it was like, holy crap, I remember that. It's just like it happened yesterday.
What year was that?
That was 1969, I believe. 1969.
We're still not sure.
Okay. August 30th, 1972. So, Lincoln Road, if you take it to the end, it ends, and to the east, it's Russell Road. To the west, it doesn't go. This is the road that we were at. I grew up towards the end of Lincoln Road, so this is my stopping road. So if you went straight to the end here, where these fences are, there's a culvert here, and right over here is where the other road goes. That was the township dump, and a lot of fond memories of the township dump. As a kid, that was a place of adventure, and the fence really doesn't stop kids. You find ways to go around them, which we did. And then, so this ditch would be going this way. That's looking to the east. There's a bridge there, and this line of trees is we call it the third rail. I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but it was part of that interurban trolley system that went to between Bay City and Saginaw. The third rail was like an extended rail of electricity that helped power the trolley. And again, we just knew it as the third rail. And if you got on your bikes and you rode down, all the way down out this way, you'll end up in the Sheboygan Creek where we used to swim. So here's the rest of the story. The newspaper. I need to tell you too about this ditch too. County drain. The dump's over here. So people came on dump day, and it was closed, or people came from the city. We didn't trust the people in the city when we saw trailers going by filled with garbage and it wasn't dump day. They would just throw stuff in the ditch. So it wasn't uncommon, and this is frozen, this was taken a couple weeks ago. It wasn't uncommon for stuff to be in the ditch, garbage, appliances. There more than one safe were found in there. Deer carcasses. You imagine dolls, mannequins, that would be in there. So it was a green, murky ditch, because that led out to the Saginaw River, and that was also a drainage ditch. So the headline of the article said 3 youngsters found body floating face down in the ditch. This is typical, but this is not. This is what I imagine our gang to be. So here's the rest of the story. The three youngsters were my brother Dennis and the neighbor John and Wayne, and as Dennis tells it, and I can picture in my head, they're going out to the Sheboygan Creek, going swimming. He's riding on his bike with his big inner tube, and I don't remember which one of them actually spotted it, but they see something in the ditch that looks fishy. And it looks like a mannequin. Obviously it's not supposed to be there. And I think through their own investigations, they determined, hey, this is not a doll, this is not a mannequin. So they went back around, sent some. I don't know if you all went. I'm looking at my brother. If you all went, or if you sent somebody. My picture was always, let's let Wayne keep an eye on it while we go. And so Bob Sampson, neighbor, was building a house right around the corner, and they came back with him. And I don't know if I was there with Donnie Sampson, his brother, but we ended up over there too. And through some, I don't know, probing or whatever, this is a body, this isn't a mannequin. So the authorities were alerted, and they came out, and the police came out, and neighbors came out. We grew up when an era where my dad used to listen to the police calls on the radio, and if we saw a police car go by, we're like, let's go, let's see what's going on down the road. But after a while, there was a crew of people there. The police actually weren't able to get the body out on their own. Our neighbor, John Hines, who had a tree service, John was kind of a bulky guy, and he ended up MacGyvering a way to get the body out and place it on the road. So it was a body, it was a real person. It was 46-year-old Florence Montezieski, in the South End, Fremont area, and she was murdered. Newspaper reported that the external injury was a gash on the left side of her forehead, and that she had been in the water for about 3 days. She was last seen by her sister about 2:30 a.m. the prior Sunday, walking on the 200 block of Washington wearing a pink jumpsuit, which she was wearing when she was discovered. That was 1972. This is still unsolved. Still unsolved. Just a, I don't know, that time here. Holy cow. Okay. So let's just say it's unsolved. If you want to talk to me afterwards, there are some things I've heard since then. But it is one of Bay County's unsolved mysteries. Portsmouth Township. This wasn't that far ago. 2018, a serial arsonist. Vehicle fires.
Oh, I remember.
There were 10 known fires between April 7th and July 20th, 2018. 4 in Hampton Township, 6 in Portsmouth. Each vehicle was parked near a residence. They were set late at night or early in the morning. The first few wasn't much damage, just some scorching to the vehicles. The rest were totally engulfed in flames. June 28th, or June 18th was one, June 28th. July 4th on West Sherman Road, they started a fire, started a minivan that was near a house. It spread to the garage, spread to the house. By the time firefighters arrived, the garage was engulfed, the windows had been blown out of the house, and they were able to rescue a 76-year-old woman who had been sleeping in the house. It was reported on September 23rd, it's been 2 months and 2 days since the last fire, unsolved. Talking with some of my friends in the police force, I think, yeah, maybe we got this person there, but he was in jail for something else, and that's why it was unsolved, still unsolved. Okay, did you know? I was going to talk a little bit about annexation, I did, but I would just say this. It was obviously James Clements Airport, which was once part of Portsmouth Township until it was annexed by the city. I don't know if we had anything to gain by keeping it, maybe not. It's the worries of the city now, but I just always thought it was cool that our airport used to be in Portsmouth, the airport in Portsmouth Township. Okay, just some notable places in the township. I'm looking at my watch, so I'm going to talk a little faster. So, if you're hip, you know who this group is. That is the group Grand Funk Railroad, and there is actually a connection to Portsmouth Township. If you don't know who they were an American band formed in 1969. They came out of Flint. Some fun facts is in June 5th, 1971, they smashed the record held by the Beatles when they sold out New York Shea Stadium in 72 hours. They sold more than 25 million records worldwide. The band has 13 gold records, 10 platinum records, and they're to the point they've evolved where I heard one of their favorite songs, my favorite songs of theirs on the Silverado commercial, the opening riff of I'm Getting Closer to Your Home. Okay. Anyway, so there was a promoter in the area. I'm not going to go into the whole background, but this is what I always knew as a leisure living on M15. And this is actually the place, and Gary, I'm going to get a nod from you. This is actually the place where they signed the papers to establish themselves as a group. Gary, am I right? Okay, so the building's still there. They're rock and roll legends. Portsmouth Township, pretty cool. This is on the corner of Cass and Lincoln. This is where Casa Vinny's used to be. So listen, Casa Vinny, Vincent Lucido, sandwich creator, goodwill ambassador, character. He was a character. He made deli sandwiches named after saints. And these were like, you would think of New York style deli. These sandwiches were huge. He named one after Governor Milliken, presented it to him in person after a parade. He named one, I remember this as a kid, but I couldn't find evidence. Named one after Jimmy Carter, peanut butter type sandwich. Carter was coming to the area, but I couldn't find any evidence of that in the paper. Then he launched what he called, and for me, he was most famous for the cannabis sandwich. So when you're a kid in high school and you hear cannabis sandwich, you think you're doing something naughty by ordering the sandwich. And the cannabis was oregano that he had sprinkled on it. Okay. So he started what he called the Love Seed campaign in 1980, where he mailed these love seeds around the globe. He would advertise like in Lonely Hearts sections of the newspapers. Then he would also reach out to people, send out to dignitaries and celebrities. He got responses from Sophia Loren, the President of Poland, the Royal Family of Monaco, the King of Jordan, the Shah of Iran, Princess Juliana of Sweden, and O.J. Simpson.
Okay. Oh boy, big deal.
Okay, so we're going from M15 to M13. This place was called Van Canyon, a teen nightclub. The building's still there, and I'm abbreviating my notes here. On the outskirts of Bay City, it was supposed to go on Euclid, but their plans fell. Or no, I think they started the roll air rink, but it was a different group of people. Gary, was it?
Different group.
Okay. Anyways, they had a contest to name the new teen nightclub, and the winning entry was Van Canyon. So it was kind of a cool place. It's still there. It was 14, so they were serving only soda and so on. It lasted for about 3 years. Featured acts included Del Shannon, Question Mark and the Mysterians, Freddie Cannon. That's Freddie Boom Boom Cannon, isn't it? Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, Bobby Goldsboro, and the Birds. So it lasted about 3 years. After it ended, it was called The Lady for a while, and then I think it was even switched to The Foxy Lady, because I remember that radio ad on AM radio.
Where was that located?
That is on River Road, just a short ways past McGraw,
Yep.
on the east side.
Got
It was Rosebush Racing after that for a while, and I don't even know what's there now. So, Flamingo Hotel. I just love the sign. There's new owners there. And the sign's gone. I would put that sign up in my backyard if I had it. That's how cool I thought. This guy was right. He really is weird. So, this here, I'm going to play something. I want you to. I'm going to try and play something.
I can't read.
I want you to see if you recognize this sound here. No? One more time. It is a bell. Where would you have heard this bell? Gas station. Okay. So this building here, that was Van Zale Electric.
Oh, yeah.
Three brothers, Adam, John, and George, started Van Zale Electric in 1924. They moved to Portsmouth in the 1940s. They patented, they invented this bell. They patented the device for other things like electric cattle fences and tools to break down tires by hand. But they patented October 16th, 1939, they patented and manufactured these bells right here in Portsmouth Township. These bells, I've got one up here. Okay, and they sold the business in the 1990s. But again, Portsmouth Township, Michigan, hey, the gas station bell, pretty cool. Did you know, Tuscola Drive-In, Portsmouth Township, 1948 was northeastern Michigan's first outdoor theater. 1,000 cars crowded the theater on opening night, causing minor traffic jams along the Tuscola Road as motorists slowed to watch the flashing Technicolor screen. So they're trying to keep it. And so that was on until the 1980s when someone else took it over, and they were slowing down to watch different kind of movies. They changed their format to X-rated films, and there was controversy. And I don't know so much about M15, but I know Pine, which is parallel to M15, you'd find people parked out there in their cars trying to get a glimpse of stuff. It's currently Weber and Son Trucking Company. One of our township's most famous landmarks, the Brandt Barn. So the Brandt family, 150 years of continuous land ownership. The Brandt family celebrated the farm's sesquicentennial in 2019. Current owners out front here, Rebecca and Jennifer Brandt, are the great-great-great-granddaughters of Henry W. Brandt, Heinrich Brandt. That's this man here. Let's see. The great-grandfather William Brandt and his sons built the barn in 1929. It's actually two separate barns that they combined together with a common roof. It's 130 foot long. You can't miss it if you're driving down M15. It's beautiful. It's in top-notch condition. It was awarded the 2020 Barn of the Year by the Michigan Barn Preservation Network. And you can see them receiving the award there. You can see it under construction. It's just magnificent. I'm a barn geek too. And if I see a barn, I'm going to do one of those. Let's see. Features of the two-part barn include hand-hewn beams with mortise and tenon connections, the joint with original bark remaining, hay trolley, glazed tile block here. That's kind of cool to look at in the silo. Let's see. Well-preserved granary and impressive curved engineered roof trusses and original windows that have been maintained. Since its construction, the barn has been continually used for agricultural operations, transitioning from a dairy to cash crops. Cool place. If you haven't seen it, take a ride down M15. You have to see it. Okay, so I'm going to breeze through these here. These are just things that caught my attention. Some did you know things. This one was an article about Jean Coakley, and the article is interesting. She was fighting to bossy kids to handy, but it starts off by saying, attractive and articulate mother of three, Jean Coakley. And I thought, I think that would work today in the newspapers. The Walmart controversy, early 2000s, very, very much divided the township. I will just say this, the township board, we need to remain neutral on it. We knew what the regulations were, but boy, it sure would be nice to have something down there, especially with the current bridge situation and people not wanting to cross. Let's see. I'm not going to do this, but it's a cool story about a horse and buggy being run off the road by a doctor in an automobile. And this one is, I just saw this ad in the paper and I thought, oh, that's cool. They were using euchre as a strategy to attract people to the township to buy a home. And how sad is it that people don't play euchre anymore? My kids don't even want to learn how to play euchre.
Oh,
And that was a Saturday night thing every week for my parents at their house or another house. And I'm not even going to talk about the lady. That's Eddie Gatz's mother. Came from Poland. She got her first trip to the beauty shop, and she understands English, but usually speaks Polish. She said, "If I'd known I would look this good, I would have done it 29 years ago." She was 90 years old in that picture. Okay. Oh, the Vanderboom family. Listen, that's my grandma and grandpa Vanderboom. They lived in Portsmouth Township on Green. Majority of their kids were born in their house on Green. This is, I think this is my Uncle Harold and Aunt Dee. This was their wedding. So there were 12 kids in the family, and I think there were actually 13, but there were 12 surviving members of the family and their spouses, big family. And at one point, and Sue, you can dispute this after, but at one point, I had 65 first cousins from this family. So I would say that they were at least one of the most prolific families in Portsmouth Township. This is my family. That's my mom and dad. This was taken in the 1990s, and again, it's family members and spouses and kids. And since it was taken, I think I counted like 25 more that would be added to that picture of our own family. Jim and Walt Knickie were from Portsmouth Township. I grew up on South Lincoln Road, so did they. They were right down the road from us. Jim is a former American defensive tackle for the National Football League for 9 seasons with the Cleveland Browns and New York Giants. So when I think of sportsmen from Bay City, I think of Jerry Lynch from Munger. I think of Terry McDermott from Essexville. Jim Knickie was big stuff here. And again, he grew up right on the end of Lincoln Road from a family of 12. Tony and Bill Knickie were the parents. He was named in 2012 one of the Cleveland Browns 100 best all-time players. Now this is older brother Walt Knickie down there. If you went to Central High School, you probably came in contact with Walt. Oldest of the 12 children, despite dealing with polio as a child and diabetes as an adult, he carved his niche in Bay County sports community with his dazzling knowledge of the body and how to mend it. He also established a business where he created devices that help people rehabilitate. Elmer Engel said he considered Kanicki a vital cog in his powerhouse program. He also referred to his trainer as his right-hand man and deferred to him over matters of body and health. Okay. Believe it or not. Okay, so stick with me on this. This is the Kaczynski family, South Lincoln Road. The house is still there, by the way. There's the mom and dad, John and Busha there, and with brothers and spouses, and this would have been my grandpa Pawlak and my grandma, Mary? What's my grandma's name?
Grandma.
Yeah, I never met her. She died at a young age. And this was Steve, the son of Jaja. So anyways, my parents were travelers. They would get in the car and they would go across the country. And I, as a kid, remember them, they would go down to Indiana. There were some relatives down there that they visited. Now, I could be way off on this, but Ted, now we pronounce her name Kaczynski. They pronounce him Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah.
From Indiana.
Yeah.
And so Steve's son Jerry, who was a well-known realtor in Bay City, Jerry Kaczynski, when this all came out, and I said, Jerry, I see your cousin's in the news. And he kind of chuckled. He said, but you know, when that came out, I looked at that picture and thought, oh damn, that looks just like Jaja, the old man. So, is there a connection between Pawlak family and the Unabomber? I don't know. It's kind of a dubious thing. I don't know if I want to claim that, but it could have been.
Well, that's a stretch.
So,
Oh, there's Paul Harvey.
Now you know the rest of the story.
He's the one.
so any quick questions before we disperse? Otherwise, you can come up and ask me. Yes, ma'am. Okay, there are some township artifacts in front. I didn't want to spend much time on them, but I just quickly. I showed you the Van Zale alarm. These two items here came from the township hall. This was like a little ballot box. There are colored marbles in here, and you can put them in the side here to indicate your vote. Could have been from the Grangers or the Gleaners. Don't know. The thing with this thing here was like a ceremonial helmet that was one of those societies that had meetings in there. That was found in the hall. Grangers or Gleaners. We found some like spike poles, but I think those got lost in the fire. Actually, we used to have one at home. One of the Portsmouth Township Fire Department helmets. Don't tell Ray.
Don't tell me.
And from the Tuscola Driving, one of the speakers.
Drive away. Speaker from the school to drive.
Any other questions? If not, thank you. Sorry I talked a little bit longer, but that's what I do when I get off the script. So, thank you.